I spoke about a court case that was won by the Communication Workers Union, and they were able to get 7 workers back on the job. 7 workers who were locked out of their jobs because they were unvaccinated were allowed back on their jobs. They got an injunction. Now, what the injunction is, the case hasn't been determined. The case is yet to be determined on whether it's illegal to keep the unvaccinated workers out. But what the injunction does says that in the meantime, before we determine this case, we're going to say that the workers must be allowed back on work. In the meantime, while the case is in court. So the injunction says, all right, we're still determining it, but allow the people back on work and pay them. That's what the court says. But here's this headline. Despite court ruling, 7 unvaccinated workers again locked out from 2 companies. Despite an order by the industrial court on Tuesday that 7 unvaccinated workers be allowed to return to work and that they be paid their salaries, the workers were again locked out of their workplaces yesterday. In an interview with Guardian Media, the CWU, Communication Workers Union Secretary General Clyde Elder, said they will today file contempt of court proceedings against the 2 companies if they continue to violate the court order. On Tuesday, the union filed 2 injunctions in the industrial court. The workers were banned from entering. We know the backstory, and they won that case. Well, they didn't win the case, sorry. They got an injunction in the matter where they were supposed to be allowed back on work. But the job said, listen, we don't care what the court says. We're still going to lock you out. And that was what I was saying previously when someone was asking about the law and the employers. The employers actually have a lot of power. And if the employer still determines they're not going to allow you back on work, then what happens next? This case seems like the employers are determined that they're going to wait till the court sends some direct enforcement in order to get this done. And here's the thing, here's the reality of all governments, of all societies, of all states. And this is the part I think some people don't quite understand sometimes. The law is just words. People can still generally do what they want to do. And if the cases, the country is in such a place where they have enough support, enough popular support on their side to allow them to continue doing what they want to do, then there's nearly nothing the court can say or do about it. I did a contemplation a while back, and I was speaking about the way how most laws are actually enforced by the culture. It's the culture that enforces a law more than the law itself. So, the prime example I used was the fact that in Trinidad we have public indecency laws. If you go into the streets and sing lewd songs or dance provocatively or dress in a lewd manner, you are supposed to be arrested. You are supposed to be breaking the law. But nonetheless, we have carnival. This is the home of carnival. And no one is arrested for carnival for acting the way they act, because culture generally determines more precisely how the laws will be enforced. So, as someone in the chat is saying, if this is seen as a health and safety issue, and they say that they fear for their lives and they cannot and will not allow, regardless of what anyone says, they will not allow their employees to be endangered, then they could make an argument for that. Now, this again is what I'm saying is going to eventually come down to how Omicron turns out. Because if Omicron somehow turns out to be very devastating for the entire country, I do not want this. I preface it with this. I do not want this. If Omicron turns out to be very devastating and very dangerous, then policies like this would actually make more sense. When people begin to be locked out of their job places, more people would be okay with it, because they'll be like, okay, lots of people are dying, well, we can allow these stringent measures. But if Omicron turns out to be as mild as it seems in other places, these measures would start to look rightfully more ridiculous as time goes on. If you're seeing that no one is dying any day, we have in the next month, we have possibly 1 death every 2 weeks from lingering cases, and this person would be someone with severe comorbidities. Then in that case, to lock out 7 unvaccinated healthy workers would seem a lot more ridiculous. But if 1 month from now, things have degraded and the case in our healthcare system seems a lot more scary, then this policy may make more sense. So some of this would be determined by what happens yet in the future. The employer is legally obligated to provide safe working environment. Now, here's the thing. The problem with that is that there could be debate as what constitutes a safe working environment. How does an unvaccinated worker in your workplace decrease the safety of your work environment? And for example, the head of JTAM, the head of the OWTU, he said that in order for them to say that, they have to provide proof that the unvaccinated are the only ones who can get and spread the coronavirus. And everyone knows, the Attorney General said it also, everyone knows there's no proof as such because vaccinated people can get, and do spread the virus. And especially when it comes to the Omicron, they do it even at a higher rate than they did before. So if the case is that vaccination or lack thereof doesn't actually decrease or increase the chance of the virus spreading in your workplace, then how can it be said that you're increasing or providing a safe workplace for your other employees? That isn't actually correct. The argument right now, I've said it before, I'll repeat it again. The argument right now for why we need mandatory vaccinations, why we need to encourage more people to be vaccinated, the argument is that our hospital system, the system that we all pay for, the system that we're all connected to, the hospital system is becoming overcrowded and overwhelmed. And when you look in the hospital system, the vast majority of people there are unvaccinated. So an argument can be made that the unvaccinated are causing the hospital system, our healthcare system, to become overwhelmed. And in that case, that is how they are endangering the entire country. If you overwhelm our healthcare system, the entire country can no longer keep up. People who would have to go get help for any regular thing, if you end up in an accident and you go to the hospital, if the hospital is overwhelmed because of COVID-19 patients, and we see that those COVID-19 patients are unvaccinated predominantly, we can say that, okay, what needs to happen is we need to vaccinate people so that it doesn't overwhelm the healthcare system. That is the argument right now. Not that the unvaccinated are going to give more people the virus. That is not the argument that is being pushed anymore.